Hey everyone, I hope you're having a great day. My name is Tyler Pate and I will be your host for today's daily challenge. We'll be going through talking on creating unique sticker badges by using type on a path, clipping mask, and we'll be ending on some fun, colorful gradients that's just going to bring everything together and make it look nice with a pop of color. So if you haven't followed along, this is day 2 of my daily challenge. And if you want, you could download this creative file down in the description if you want to dive into that source file, play around with all these fun little assets that we'll be creating, but also breaking down and showing you what it's all about. So we don't have much time, so let's go ahead and dive in and get to work on this badge. All right, so if you have the source file, you should be able to look at this exactly how we have it right now. And we actually might have in your file, the type is probably outlined just because it's a font. But what we'll be doing is looking exactly what we're making. So if we do outline mode real quick, this is exactly all the shapes, all the live type, and then some of the fun gradients that are making this nice little effect right here, giving more of that texture of paper crinkled up and distressed. So let's go ahead and dive into it. First off, we're going to start with the back base shape. And I'm just going to copy this same pink here. If we wanted to break this down, where are you at? There we go. Perfect. So starting out, let's do the oval, which is using the ellipse tool. Simple ellipse like this should do. Again, doesn't have to be exactly like what's in the source file, but I wanted to give us sort of an example of what you could do with a badge and how do you create those badges, and really flexing out your typography skills a little bit to make it a custom icon / badge, which I think is a really fun thing to do, especially if you wanted this to keep the theme of these stickers. And I think I was inspired by these fruit stickers, kind of like what you see at the grocery store or farmer's market. So let's go ahead and make sure that this is a solid feel, something like that. All right, we have our back, and then we're gonna do Command C, Command F, which is copy, paste into place. And then we're just gonna scale it from center so we get right around there. And this is actually gonna be that open section for where we're gonna put the cherry. Might actually stretch this a little bit, just so that we look nice and centered, just like that. And what I'm gonna do now is click on that center shape we just made, copy, paste into place once again, and I'm gonna enlarge that just a little bit. And this is one thing that really helps me whenever you're about to do any sort of type on a path is I typically make those shapes a stroke so I can see them, and then I can also not have it conflict with any of the typography. So let's go ahead and switch that over. So now we have a stroke just like this. And then we're going to adjust exactly where that stroke is landing up against that center. So now we have something to work with. All right, and for our type, I'm going to go and click and hold in our type. And then I'm going to go ahead and look for type on a path. All right, so once we have type on a path, then we can kind of go back over here and just click on that stroke. And time as you click on that, it typically fills in with some lower and Epsom, so it gives us something to work with. I would strongly suggest you find some type combinations beforehand before you dive into it. We're going to just go ahead and use what I've already created here, which is the organic cherries. I think that's going to be fun. And to go ahead and start typing that out. And I'm going to have, you'll notice on this sticker badge, we have organic at the top and then cherries down at the bottom. And they're still both on top of the path. That's actually 2 type paths. So I'm going to start with the first one. And I'm going to make this quicker for me by just eyedropping tool my font. And you could do that pretty easily with the eyedropper tool. And I'm gonna just go ahead and drag my type around. And you notice that whenever you do anything on type on the path, you kind of get these three little bars that kind of determine where your type should start and where your type should end directly on that path. So take some time playing around with that so you can understand what's happening here, because it's really tricky at first. And you can only get to that by, again, getting to your direct select tool and then clicking. I keep clicking on the wrong path there, but there we go. Once you click on that little bar, you're able to set that start path and then the end path. And we're trying to get this type up at the top. So once we have that, we're going to decrease the sizing a little bit. And then we can also just bring it down a little bit too, just to get it within that pink area, just like that. All right. So here's what's going to get a little tricky. If you go ahead and click on our type that we just created, I'm going to do copy, paste into place. So now we have two type on the path on top of each other. So you can't really see that until you drag one away. But what I am going to do is I'm going to lock one of these in place. So I'm going to do Command 2. So that just locked one of them. So I can't touch this other one, but I could touch the one that was underneath it. And with that selected, I'm going to move my type on the inside of that circle. And then I'm going to make sure it's at the bottom of that oval. And then I'm going to increase the size to where it's right along the same area as organic. And you can see that the type enlarges whenever you drag those shapes. So simple fix, eyedropper tool, click back on our original type, and it's going to select the same sizing that we are using to begin with. Just like that. Okay, and we can switch back to our type tool, and let's click into this type path again, because we're going to change this to cherries. Just like that. And you know, something I'm noticing is I don't like the spacing. It's not consistent, right? And that's because we're copy and pasting ovals, and whenever you just enlarge those from the center, sometimes the shape itself doesn't have the same sizing all the way around the margins. So we're just going to kind of stretch this and pull it into the area we want. Like that. And let's make sure we check our our character panel here to make sure we're at 100% vertical, 100% horizontal. That's just making sure it's the font as it's supposed to be and it's not stretched and pulled anywhere we don't want it. All right, so I'm going to do Command Option 2, which is going to unlock everything that we've locked, which is this top type. And we're going to do the same thing here. So we want to make sure our margins are the same all the way around. If the type's getting too close to the edge like it is here, I want to kind of bring that in. So I'm going to grab this and hold Option to kind of stretch it in just a little bit. I'm going to make sure my type is at 100% on vertical and horizontal, so it's nice and centered within that pink shape there. All right, we're starting to work on our type now, and you can already start to see the badge here forming. And again, make this whatever you want. This could be a badge for a logo. It could be another sticker for maybe some promotional use. There's a lot of things that we could do with the type on the path, which is a really fun one and very key for graphic design. So what we're going to do next is we're going to create some more type. So I'm just going to use the regular type here, and I'm just going to put 20 because that's going to be our 2023 timestamp which I'm gonna stretch and size into place. And then select that color here in the center. And I'm gonna hold Option and Shift while dragging my type over to duplicate. And then we're gonna change this type to 23. So now it's 2023. Let's make sure that these are both aligned. Perfect. And I'm gonna actually make this a little smaller in the center. And then we can make this pink a little larger, just so we got enough padding around everything. Perfect. All right, what do we need to do now? So now I'm gonna create what was this fun little area resembling like a barcode, using a couple different things. So first off, let's create what is essentially kind of a fake barcode here. So I just used the shape tool right up here in the toolbar. The rectangle will work perfect for this. So in this area, let's just go ahead and create a couple bars. Don't worry about it going over top the type or outside of our oval here, because we're gonna then select all of these bars and then create a clipping mask, which is gonna bring all these together within the shape that we want. It's gonna be nice and easy. So I'm just gonna duplicate these, again, holding Option Shift while I'm dragging these bars. And I'm gonna modify the sizing of each of these. Just think about how barcodes typically are. Again, if it was a real barcode, that has to be generated, but we're just making a fun little mock-up here. We're gonna create various sizes like this, just to give that illusion of a real barcode. And you already see it forming, right? It's already looking like a barcode, which is quite nice. Perfect. Now let's select all those vertical bars that we just made, and I'm gonna do Command G, which is gonna group all those together so that we don't lose any if we decide to move them. Just a little bit like that. All right, now let's make the clipping mask. I'm gonna select the center shape here, and I'm gonna actually go up to Object, Path, and then Offset Path. And when you offset path, this is the best way of creating any sort of margin around shapes, or even works for anything, honestly. If you're prepping for sticker print, if you're prepping for posters or anything with bleeds and margins, definitely do offset path, because it's going to give you a perfect margin that is mathematical. So we can go as large as we want, or we can go as low as we want. And when you go negative, it goes on the inside of that shape, which we're going to do. So let's go about negative, I think negative 1 or 0.125. And when you click OK, it just gave us a new shape. And I'm going to change the color so you can see where this new shape is. Look at that. So we have a perfect margin. If you did outline mode, you're able to see exactly what we did. Nice and easy. And now I'm going to cut this new shape we just built in half. Not a perfect half, but it's like 2/3. Okay. Select your shape, select the line that we're going to cut, and then we're going to go to Pathfinder, and then we're going to click Divide, which now just cut this in half. And I'm going to delete the top piece. Okay, so this is going to be the most important part for any clipping mask, which is really cool for creating those customized shapes, especially if you start layering them. So I'm going to select our new shape, and I'm going to select our barcode bars. And then I'm going to go to Option, and then we're going to go all the way down to Clipping Mask, and then Make. Boom. Look at that. The gray shape that we had on top goes away completely, but it's actually now just a clipping mask. So it's only showing you the areas that were visible from that shape. And if we do Command Y, our bars are still there. They're just embedded in that clipping mask, which is quite nice. And if you ever want to get into there, you just triple click, and then you're able to move our bars or whatever shape, wherever you want. So it's completely editable, customizable, whichever you want to say. Make nice, fun clipping mats like that, which is going to be our barcode. Okay, now we can start building our little cherry icon. So this is a pretty simple one to do. And actually, if you saw yesterday's stream, we actually built essentially the same cherry. So I'm going to steal the colors over here. The red. I'm going to use my ellipse tool. It's like that. And I'm going to do copy, paste into place, scale from center. And I'm about to make what is going to be the highlight on that cherry. And you'll see what I'm doing is trying to find exactly where that highlight should be. Looking right about there. I just used the Pathfinder to cut that shape out of those two circles I just made, which leaves us with our highlight, just like that. Let's select both. Let's group. I like to group these shapes whenever I can, just so that we don't lose anything. I think I actually have extra circle there. All right. We have one cherry, and I'm going to drag and duplicate over a little bit to the right to make our second. I'm going to send behind, and we don't need a highlight anymore. But what we do need is a shadow. So I'm going to copy and paste this into place, and I'm going to enlarge now. I'm going to change that to black. I'm going to go back, and then let's scale this to where it's a good size for our shadow. I'm going to select. And what I'm doing is I'm duplicating the same shape over and over so it's in the perfect place every time. And it's also giving me a perfect margin that makes sense for an overlap. So by overlapping in the area that we have, we can then do the Pathfinder tool again. We could do divide. And I'm going to delete that. And that leaves us with that shadow there. Perfect. We can look at our reference to see exactly where we made it slightly different. And we can honestly just switch that around just a little bit by rotating it, because I want it to resemble our actual master file over here, our source file, because we have our little highlight there on the bottom. Perfect. I'll select this because we're going to make the stems now. I'm just going to simply draw this with the pen tool, just like that. Again, if you're just joining, we did go over this in yesterday's stream of how to make these types of icons, specifically the cherry too. So I'll go in a little more detail of this. It's very simple shapes. Send that to back. I'm going to now create the end of the cherry stem just with the pen tool. Yeah. Perfect. I'm going to group these, send it back, group it with our cherries. Make sure our cherries are centered. And I think our stem a little lower. So I'm going to bring it down to right there. Okay, and now we're going to make our leaf. And our leaf is, again, very simple shape that's going to start with a perfect circle. And if we use our curve tool, we're just going to click on both of those points on either end of the circle, and then I'm going to bring it down, get this nice shape. And then there's also this highlight that's on the leaf that I'm going to copy, paste into place, and bring down that top point, and that's what's going to be the highlight, and then the other is going to be the shadow, just like that. And then let's go ahead and drag that over. And I thought it was kind of fun that it overlaps the typography just a little bit, just to give it a little more dynamic readability. Because again, what we're trying to do in this mockup is we're creating those fun little fruit stickers that you see on packaging or typically on bananas and apples. So we're making a sticker here for cherries. Let's send that up. All right. Perfect. All right. And I think we actually needed this to go above, and then we're going to create the top of the cherry, which what would that be, where the stem meets the actual cherry? I don't know what that's called. I'm just gonna do that with a pen tool. Just changing the curves a little bit. That's good. Awesome. So now we are left with the last part of this, which I wanted to get into, which is making some fun, subtle gradients. So with that, I'm going to select what the light pink color is here, and I'm just going to use the pen tool to just make this little oblong looking shape I have here. And then if you have your gradient panel open, you can go ahead and drag that color in by just clicking on that bar. And that's going to give you the exact color of that shape. And typically they mix it with a lighter version of it, which we have here. Or sometimes I actually said that backwards. I think it's typically a darker shade of it, because this is the color we have. I'm going to duplicate that, delete that. So this is now a gradient that you can't see as a gradient because it's using the same color. But now we're going to edit. I'm going to slightly make a little darker. So we're going to add a little more magenta to it on the slider here. Just like that. And I'm going to send this backwards so it's behind our type. Make this a little lighter, something like that. All right, and I'm going to duplicate that same shape. I'm going to add it over here, and let's just adjust these points. We want to change the shape of the original. Go larger, smaller. And my advice for this is try crinkling up some paper and see all the highlights and shadows that the crinkled paper typically makes, because that's what we're trying to emulate. There's no right or wrong way other than using a reference. Like I was saying, you have to understand how those shadows typically look on something that's actually crinkled. And then we could also just start creating new ones like this. And you can eyedropper tool the previous gradients just so that we're all consistent. Let's send this to back. Again, command. Just like that. And I'm just putting this in areas to give it more interesting highlights and details. Duplicate again, send it back so it's behind our type, and then start adjusting these shapes a bit more. Perfect. Just like that. So let's compare it to what we originally started with. So you can see that there's a little bit darker in some of the areas, and that's only because we need to just modify our gradient. And we could do that by, I could just eyedropper tool exactly on the colors that is in the source file, if you want it to be exactly like what we worked on. And then I think I ultimately added a gradient to the actual oval here. So there is a slight gradient on that we did miss. But again, you have that source file, so you could, if you wanted to, just eyedropper tool my original gradients, and we can play with the same exact colors very easily. Yeah, so that's nice and easy to do. And if you wanted to go in there, adjust the curve by just having your gradient bar open. Do it like that. I actually prefer where it was. Perfect. And check that out. We literally just made a fun fruit sticker, which could be a badge used for anything from stickers to icons and a pattern, a toss pattern, and things like that, in under 30 minutes. So I hope you were able to learn a couple of fun things from Type on the Path, working with gradients, and also that clipping mask. Game changers here. Please like and stay tuned for the rest of the week. I'm Tyler Pate, and this has been Day 2 Daily Challenge. See you next time.